Okay, so how's it going, guys? This is Rio Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. Yes, some people might know it, some people don't know that I have been in the hospital for roughly 1 week, and it wasn't Corona-chan, it was something else. But thank you for those people who have been supportive, and yeah, thank you for sticking around, especially my subscribers haven't decreased in the past week or so when I was actually gone. And as always, because I'm back home, it is time to make more contents along the way. And how should I say it? When I was in the hospital, the whole week was cloudy and rainy, and when I came home I realized that this week is going to be rainy and cloudy, and I'm guessing that the next week will be rainy and cloudy, something similar to the weather in London, UK. So it's not the best time to shoot with film, and honestly it gets irritating because I can't constantly go out in the perfect sunlight to shoot photos. If I shoot with digital, it would be the best time to shoot, but film, it's actually really hard to shoot in the rain. So going back onto this topic, in this time of sort of humid and dark days, I would like to sort of talk about camera storage solutions, aka dry cabinets, especially during these humid times. It kind of blows my mind seeing so many people on YouTube having their camera equipments on their shelf, on their desk, in their cabinets, and it kind of blows my mind. Why do you guys do that? Is it because you guys want to show off your camera equipment, or else, I mean, in my mind it seems to me that you guys are damaging your camera equipment in the long short term period. But as always, a lot of people who watch my YouTube channel don't know much about dry cabinets in particular. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the power, so it is my sort of duty to educate the people who are watching my videos. And obviously there are those professionals who know what I'm talking about, and you guys can skip this video because you guys know what a dry cabinet is. But this is going to be more an informative video for you guys, and it's something worth sharing to you guys, and it's sort of my duty to share my knowledge to you guys. I might be wrong, I might be right, but take that for a grain of salt and see how it goes. So this area was it's messed up, so I'll shoot all the sort of BTS for you guys. What I have back there in the corner is what you would call a dry cabinet. Obviously I have it back there due to the fact that because it's 125 liters in terms of storage size, it is pretty heavy, and I can't bring it over right here to show it to you guys, so I'll just stick in a video of it. And typically it's locked into a specific location, and you can find lots of varieties of these dry cabinets. They go up from 20 liters, as small as 20 liters, to up to 600 liters. Holy cow, if you want to run a photography business. And I guess depending on where you live, the brand differs. In North America, when I checked B&H Photo and Adorama, they go under a brand called Ruggers series. But in Tokyo, Japan in particular, the main brands here would be the King of the Hills Toyo Living, which they are really the pioneers of dry cabinets. They've been around for 47 years, if I'm right. And the budget brand options would be either Hokuto and Reclean. The brand that I purchased recently is actually from a company called Reclean, so it's the budget option, and they have a 21 liter, a 25 liter, a 50 liter, and an 80 liter, 125, and a whooping 180 liter. And what do? Dry cabinets are sort of basically storage containers similar to a wine cellar, which wine storage rack, what you would call, where you basically sticking a wine in that storage container maintains a specific humidity and temperature or something like that. What you call a dry cabinet for cameras basically does the exact same thing, except it just maintains a specific humidity, not the temperature, but just the humidity throughout as long as it's plugged into AC. And some people might not know, or some people know, that the optimum humidity to maintain your camera equipment is roughly, according to specific camera sites, they would say 35% to 50%. And I would probably say from my like personal experience that 40% to 50% in terms of humidity is probably the best area to maintain your camera. If not, what would happen is if the humidity goes beyond 50%, mold, fungus, dust could enter your camera lens, and if you guys know what would happen, it could affect your image quality. And if it affects your image quality, what happens from there is you have to get your lens fixed. But because if you shoot with a film camera, that lens cannot be repaired in some cases, or if it can be repaired, it would cost a few $100s, and because you have to basically overhaul it. So there's these like problems that arise in the long or maybe short run if you don't store your camera equipments in a specific like case, enclosure, storage, like a dry cabinet. So this is like one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. On the other hand, what's interesting is if it goes below 35%, if I'm right, corrosion could occur. And this is not, well, this might happen on film cameras, but more towards digital cameras, because digital cameras, you guys know that there's something called weather sealing, which if you guys know, when you look at weather sealing camera lenses like a Nikon lenses, like the G type lenses that are weather sealed, when you flip the lens over, there's these like rubber gaskets. The rubber actually starts to corrode if the humidity hits below 35%. So that's like one of the things. And when that, rubber corrodes water, and when we're shooting in the rain, basically water could enter from the side from the lens and goes into your sensor, ruining your camera or your lens. And it's hard to get water out from your lens, and you have to get it repaired. So that's like another downside of not properly storing your camera gear in a sort of like a specific like storage container. So that's like one of the important things of like properly like storing your camera equipments. My reason of purchasing one is that my previous like dry cabinet, I owned a Toyo Living dry cabinet auto clean dry. That is a long name actually. I owned the 55 liter, I guess what you would call an entry level like dry cabinet, but that was a pretty expensive investment. But it's interesting because I purchased one after I graduated from photography school. So that was like 8-9 years ago. And don't get me wrong, it's not broken, but I was actually instead running out of space because I started this channel. And although my main work is digital, I started shooting with film cameras. And as I started growing my channel small steps by small steps, I started to purchase more film cameras, and I was running out of space. So that was actually one of the reasons why I purchased a larger like what you call dry cabinet to sort of accommodate the space that I needed to sort of like stick in my camera equipment. And honestly, the 55 liter was at its limits, and it was like really cramped up. So I started to like look around, and back then, like 8-9 years ago, Toyo Living, and there was another brand, I think I forgot the name of the company, but there was only 2 brands that were selling what you call dry cabinets, and they were really expensive. The 55 liter back then cost like $400, but right now, fast forward to 2021, there's like so many options available, which I need to like talk about. And especially the budget options in Japan right now, Reclean and Hokuto, they basically sell half the price of Toyo Living. And what was interesting was that the 125 liter, so it's like 2.5 times the size of my previous like dry cabinet, it actually costs exactly the same, maybe less. I was able to purchase a 125 liter for roughly $320 or so, and that was a steal, honestly. The 125 liter is more than enough. It still has a lot of spaces, and it's like really easy to use, honestly. There's basically a door, or what you call like a handle, where you basically open the door, and it's like a bookshelf basically. You basically pull out like a tray, and you just leave your camera in there. And obviously on top of that plastic tray are these like cushions to prevent your camera from getting scratched. And there's like 5 of these like what you call shelves where my for me, I have all my medium format on my first like tray. On my second tray, I have my lenses, and on my third, fourth, fifth tray, I have my accessories, battery grips, and peripherals. And there's like so many things you can do with this. Like you can like stick in CDs, DVDs, or you can put in your film negatives if you want to like store it in a specific like condition. And that, I think film negatives actually you can stick in there, and because I think 30 to 40, 50% is actually the optimal like percentage to store your film negatives, if I'm right. So I mean, there's like so many like possibilities like using these dry cabinets, and it just works for me. But in Japan, a lot of people actually use dry cabinets due to the fact that Japan is already a subtropic nation, meaning that the humidity is above, or in most cases it's beyond 50%, 60%, 70%, and sometimes it's like 80% in Tokyo. So there's a reason why a lot of Japanese people own one, and especially the highly enthusiast, like professional. I think 100% of the professionals own some kind of like dry cabinet because they want to sort of protect their like, lenses and camera equipment. And when you think of it as a long-term investment, it actually pays off because you're actually preventing yourself from getting your lens, you're getting your camera from getting it repaired, overhauled, because those are really expensive, and it like adds up in the long run. And although the upfront like cost of like purchasing one is rather expensive, in the long run it would actually save you from like overhauling 2-3 lenses. If you overhaul 2-3 lenses, it's gonna cost like $300, and like I said, my what you call dry cabinet costs $300, so it kind of like evens out basically. So, and in my case, I never overhauled any lenses so far and camera due to the fact that I've been storing it in my previous like what you call dry cabinet, and now I sort of moved from the smaller one to a larger one, and it makes a lot of sense. The reason why there's a budget option and the more expensive version, I'm not sure about the rugged version because, and that's being sold on B&H. I don't know where it's like made in, blah blah blah. But the Japanese version, the Toyo Living one, the expensive one that I previously owned, I realized that all the components was made in Japan, so that's actually one of the reasons why it's like really expensive. But the budget option, the Reclean and the Hokuto, I realized that this might apply to probably the majority of manufacturers like selling these like dry cabinets. But I realized that the storage case itself is actually made in China, while the white called electric parts are made in Japan, especially the Reclean one version. They're all made, the electric what I call dehumidifying component, the electrical components is actually made in Japan, along with the hydrometer, if that's right, is actually made in Japan. So basically that's the difference between the more expensive one and the more cheaper version, if I'm right. Okay, so honestly, there will be those people out there who would say, okay, so I'm thinking of purchasing a dry cabinet, but I'm not sure like what kind of size I should go for. And like I said, like back then, like 10 years ago, there weren't that many options. There was only like a 50, 80, 120, and a 150 or so, if I'm right. But now there's like so many options. There's like 18 in Japan. There's 18, 30, 50, 80, 120, 150, and 180, if I'm right. And there's like more options for the smaller size. And this is like going to be, I mean, this is going to depend on that person specifically, but if you are confident that you love photography, I would highly suggest getting a little bit of a larger like dry cabinet. Like in my case, I went with the 55 liter, which was a great investment because it like sits in the middle. It's not too small, not too big, but as I sort of like grew as a photographer, I realized along the way, you realize like what kind of specific lens you need for that job or for that project, So let's say I'm not a landscape photographer, but if you're a landscape photographer, you need a wide angle lens and some kind of telephoto. And as you grow, you realize you don't need the specific lenses like macro lenses. You don't need the macro lenses or maybe you might need a macro lens depending on what you do, depending on what kind of like life work you do. But what I'm trying to say is along the way, you will start to purchase specific like camera equipments, battery grips and stuff like that. If you're like a portrait photographer, commercial photographer, you need a battery grip to shoot vertical and stuff like that. And these like small equipment starts to add up, and they start to eat away the storage space. And if you initially purchase the smaller cases, smaller enclosure like 18 liter and 30 liters, I would say, or I could state that specific storage will get cramped out pretty fast. And what would happen after that is, this is sort of like my imagination, but you would have to like sell that specific case. You basically have to bundle it up, put it in a cardboard box, and ship it out to someone, list it onto Craiglist or eBay, and sell it out and purchase a new one. And that's basically, in my case, a sort of like a waste of time, and you're like losing valuable time to shoot, edit photos, but instead you basically have to purchase a new like equipment, and you basically have to like resell it to get the cash flowing into your account and stuff like that. So this is sort of like my kind of biased opinion, but it would be better to invest in a sort of like a larger case than you already need, because when you think like 5 to 10 years, those like camera equipments are gonna increase in terms of size. Obviously, if you're moving from a DSLR to mirrorless, your camera equipments might get smaller. But if you're like someone like me who already like moved ships to mirrorless, I already know that the camera equipment's lenses is going to be smaller than a DSLR, so I don't need that much of a space. But as I grew my sort of like YouTube, as I'm as I'm like what I call quietly increasing subscriber counts on my YouTube channel, growing my YouTube channel, I realized that I'm purchasing more like film equipment along the way, and I realized that the 55 liter won't fit the bills in terms of space, and I realized that it would be a much better investment to make that jump from 55 to 125 liters, so I can accommodate both my digital camera and my film cameras actually in the larger storage case. And there are going to be those sacrifices in terms of space, because in terms of space as in like my room's like pretty small, so it's gonna eat away a specific area, because 125 liters storage dry cabinet is similar size in terms of how big my sort of like refrigerator is. So my refrigerator is like 150 or 160 liters, so there's not much of a difference, but it actually eats away that space in terms of where I'm living. So it's like a toss-up actually. But if you live in like North America, you probably have a lot of space in your room, unless you're living in New York or California, where it's like really expensive and your room's like real small, like Japan, Tokyo, and specifically. So it's like a toss-up basically. The 55 liter was actually a great like basically storage solution cabinet in my case, because it did not take that much of space in terms of room space, but the 125 liter actually eats away a lot of space, and I had to make my sacrifices. But yeah, but as an investment, it was actually one of the great things that I did in my life. And I have to like mention that like before purchasing the 55 liter what we call dry cabinet, I actually stuck my camera into these what we call plastic case enclosure made by Hakuba, and just stuck in these like dehumidifying like items in there with a hydrometer to check the how much humidity is in that box. But I realized in the like short term that was not the most efficient way of doing it, and I realized that it would be a much better investment to buy a dry cabinet, because these things actually do not suck that much electricity, and honestly they only suck like 5 cents per day if I'm right. 5 to less than 0.5 cents. Wait, 0.6 yen. Oh, sorry, that's like half a cent actually per day. So these things don't suck any power actually, but they basically maintain this like humidity, and it just does one job flawlessly. So it's like, and that's actually another reason why I moved from that, plastic bag. And it was so inefficient and it was hilarious. I was thinking to myself, why am I doing this kind of? And I was like wasting so much time like going to the shop to purchase these dehumidifying items. And once I purchased this, what you call dry cabinets, I realized, oh, I don't have to like care much about I don't have to like think about the humidity of my camera equipments from now on. I mean, I have like peace in my mind, and one stress level lower will make your life so much easier, and you get better health. That doesn't make any sense at all, but I hope you understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, so this has been a sort of like a super long video, just me talking passionately about dry cabinets, and hopefully no other YouTuber never passionately talks about these what I call cases. I mean, they're just storage containers that just basically maintains exactly the same humidity. This has been a super long video of me like talking passionately and enthusiastically about dry cabinets. I mean, no other YouTubers talk this much about dry cabinets. I mean, hopefully I'm the only one, and I feel like an idiot maybe. So hopefully I cleared a lot of answers and questions that people had in their mind. And yeah, please leave in the comments. I'm kind of curious about like what kind of dry cabinets exist in Europe, like the brands, what kind of brands are like really famous. I mean, because there's like a lot of countries, does it differ depending on where you live, or are there some kind of standard dry cabinet manufacturer in Europe? And maybe and I'm not sure about like, yeah, the United States and Canada, because I only saw the Rugger brand from B&H. Are there any alternatives to that, or is that basically the only like manufacturer where you can like purchase a dry cabinet? So, and at the same time, kind of curious, if you own one, what kind of brand do you use? And please leave it in the comments below. I'm kind of really curious about that. And hope you enjoy this video. And yeah, I'm great to be back home from the hospital. Yeah, fully recovered, and hopefully I'm waiting until the sun shines. It's gonna take more than a week or two to like get out to start shooting again. And I actually shot one location that I need to make a video on. That's probably going to be my next video. Hopefully I can get it done during this week. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy this video. And yeah, waiting for the sun to shine. We will see you next time. Peace.